Every movie I was never allowed to make is in these two movies. All the stories I dreamed of telling, all the environments I dreamed of shooting in, sequences that I wanted to do in other stories, they all found their way into this movie. We were all in.
Your life will always matter more to me than my own.
None of our lives can matter more than this mission.
I don't accept that.
Action! And now, congratulations on the film. Fallout was a tough act to follow, and a film like this, where it's only a part one, it might feel that, you know, like maybe it's hard to give it a satisfying ending, and so it seems it was so difficult to meet the bar you set with Fallout, but you've done it. It's incredible.
I'm glad you think so. Thank you very much.
And on Fallout, Tom broke his ankle. On this film, with some absolutely incredible stunts, on a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is completely relaxed and 10 is absolute anxiety attack, where did you get to in terms of a fear that Tom was going to suffer death or dismemberment?
Day one.
Yeah.
Day one, we shot the motorcycle jump off of the cliff in Norway. We had rehearsed it extensively, but when you get to location, everything becomes an unknown. And we did not know what would happen when he left the ramp, or if he would make it to the end of the ramp. And that's it. And it just compounded from there. Every day was some sort of anxiety of whether or not we would make it.
That stunt is going to be iconic, I think, in the annals of cinema. But I'd love for you to explain to me the process of conceiving these sequences and getting to the point where they're physically possible and then feasible to shoot.
The physically possible part is one complication. How to shoot it is the other complication. So when we envision a stunt like this, the practicality at this stage, we knew our way around motorcycles. We knew our way around skydiving. We had done sequence. We did what is essentially the base jump out of the C-17 in Fallout when Tom did the halo jump. We had done motorcycle gags before. Now you're combining those things. The challenge then was where to put the camera, what platform to use, how do we show that it's Tom? And that's the really complicated thing. Normally when you're shooting action, you're hiding the fact that it's a stuntman and not the actor. With Mission Impossible, the reverse is the problem, is how do you show that it is the actor and not a stuntman? So where can the camera be, and how can it be there in a way that it doesn't kill Tom while he's doing the stunt? This was extremely complicated because you needed a camera that was in the air, but was also a substantial enough cinema camera that you would actually see that it was Tom. And we were determined not to use a helicopter because we didn't want to blow Tom off the ramp. When we got to Norway, the drone that we had practiced everything with, the lens that we had been using for all of our rehearsals didn't capture the environment. So when we changed the lens, it changed the drone, it changed everything that we had rehearsed. And our helicopter guys came up to us and said, we think we could actually do this stunt. And we could do it in a way that doesn't blow Tom off the ramp. So you have to imagine, even though we had rehearsed everything, it was all improvised on the day. Everything changed. The plan went right out the window.
That sounds terrifying.
It's very terrifying.
And so how would you describe your relationship with Tom after working with him for so many years, and how has it shaped you as a filmmaker?
Well, how I describe these two movies, every movie I was never allowed to make is in these two movies. All the stories I dreamed of telling, all the environments I dreamed of shooting in, sequences that I wanted to do in other stories, they all found their way into this movie. We were all in, and I think a lot of that was informed by the fact that we were shooting during the pandemic at a time when it felt like the big screen experience was in danger of vanishing. That gave us a sort of all or nothing feeling to the movie. And I would say my relationship with Tom is everything that we're doing in this movie is taking all of our experience from all the movies we've made prior, not just Mission Impossible, but also Top Gun Maverick and Edge of Tomorrow, everything we've worked on together, everything we've worked on separately, putting it into the movie we're working on now. And there's no ego, there's no pride of authorship. You can suggest anything, and the other person will be all in on that idea whether they get it or not. And one of two things will happen. Either we'll both start to get it, or the person whose idea it was will say, this doesn't work, thanks for trying. So and it's all about the audience. It's just all about the audience's experience. And it makes it a very democratic and very creative process of discovery rather than a process of execution.
And as members of the public, we know about Tom's dedication to his craft, his commitment to his physical fitness, his preparation for roles.
Yeah.
What are some of the qualities that we don't see that you think have led to his longevity and incredible success?
Well, it's funny because I've been working with him now for 16 years, and I remember very distinctly the first time I met him coming in with my preconceived notion of who Tom was and waiting for that person to manifest himself. And 16 years later, realizing that that person doesn't exist. It's an amalgam of things that we think we know and we think we understand. And then of course you hear people talk about Tom, how hardworking he is, how gracious he is, all of which sounds like, okay, but that can't really be. And that really is. I mean, what you see is what you get. It's somebody who just loves making movies, loves entertaining an audience, really does care about the craft, cares about the medium. And the way I would describe it is his stardom is a byproduct. It's not the thing he was ever in pursuit of. It's what happened on his way to just wanting to entertain an audience.
And one thing about this film that I think might not get as much credit as it deserves is the story. I think artificial intelligence as the villain of the piece feels so current, but of course, this is something that you wrote a few years ago, before ChatGPT exploded. Like, what inspired you to write this script, and how do you feel about AI now?
Well, I'll answer the feelings question first. I'm not here to tell you what I think. I'm here to give you things to think about. How we came upon the notion of this villain was a process of exploration that started with an anxiety about information and information technology that I felt was coming to life right around the time we started to make this movie. We had talked about information technology as the threat before. In fact, my very first meeting on a Mission Impossible was with Oliver Stone when he was considering directing, I think, the second Mission Impossible, or maybe the third. And that was right around 1999, and Y2K was the big anxiety that people were talking about. They were intellectual ideas then. They were abstract concepts that it was very difficult to make people feel it. When I grew up during the Cold War, no one had to explain to you what the Cold War was when you went to see Hunt for Red October. You knew what the threat was, and that was an anxiety you brought to the movie. With Top Gun was the same way. Top Gun the original Top Gun was a movie we were all watching during the Cold War. When this started, I said to Tom, this is an idea that I no longer worry about being abstract. This is an idea that I think people are beginning to understand on a fundamental level, and can be the kind of threat that we could present in this movie. And that's really how it came together. Over the course of the movie, its character became more and more apparent. It stopped being the MacGuffin of the movie and started to become the villain.
You've no idea the power I represent. It knows your story and how it ends.
And the idea that governments would want to harness it instead of killing it, the British PM Rishi Sunak came out the other day and said he wants to harness AI and make Britain an AI superpower. I thought he was a character from Dead Reckoning. I thought I was watching the trailer.
Human nature's a funny thing.
Yeah, I think it's so prescient,
Oh, wow,
which is amazing. And now we see a lot of familiar faces returning, which is awesome. It's a beloved part of the franchise. But I want to talk to you about a new character, Grace, played by Hayley Atwell, who I think is just fantastic. She's an absolute scene stealer. That dynamic with Tom is brilliant. Tell me about casting her.
Hayley is someone we had been talking to and talking about for over 10 years. We were considering Hayley for Jack Reacher, for Rogue Nation, and was somebody I had seen on the stage as well as in a great many films. And Hayley has this remarkable presence. She has a remarkable essence. I have no other way to describe it except she's got it.
Who is that person?
I have no idea.
And we just wanted to give Hayley the stage to put her best self forward. The way I describe it, especially this movie, you just hire good people and get out of their way. And what you're watching is Hayley just being given the opportunity to explore.
And that fun that she adds in that dynamic with Ethan, like what does that bring to the film?
Just that. The answer is in your question. It's fun, and it's very hard in a spy movie, a melodramatic spy movie, to have that kind of fun. And what I said to Hayley very early on, she has this utterly electrifying smile. I said we have to find ways to get that smile in the story, but do it in a way that is organic. And that was really the biggest and most important part for us in terms of developing that character was how do we create opportunities for Hayley that do not repress Hayley, but actually support her. And so a lot of the scenes that you're seeing, their first meeting in the airport, all of that was about finding ways for Hayley to be Hayley.
It works so well. It's so fun to watch
She's
on the screen.
extraordinary. She's an absolute gift.
Biggest challenge of shooting these movies back to back?
Again, the answer is in your question. Shooting these movies back to back. It's not even, back to back is probably not the most accurate description of it. We would be shooting part one, and then have to stop to shoot bits of part two that were either weather dependent, resource dependent, actor dependent, and then go back to shooting part one, and then have to shut part one down to edit enough of part one so that we would be ready to finish part one when we got around to it. So you were never in one constant state. You were in pre-production, production, post-production, and promotion. And only now that part one is out the door and we're promoting part one, will we be making one movie at a time, which is part two.
Sounds nightmarish.
It's crazy. And you had to do all of this during the pandemic. So everything that you're doing is with all of those protocols in place, many of which didn't exist when we started shooting part one. So a lot of what we were doing was pioneering the protocols that would ultimately become the protocols for the industry. And a lot of what we learned during that has now changed the way we shoot movies after.
Yeah, amazing. Christopher, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure. The movie is an absolute cracker. I know fans around the world are going to love it.
Thank you so much.